Hello everybody, I'm Philipp Kehl, designer of ASCENDIA, Seasons of Thargos. Today I want to show you something special. I want to show you a little bit of actual gameplay so you can have a better understanding what it actually feels like to play a full game of ASCENDIA. To do this, we will jump into Tabletop Simulator, since it's a little bit complicated for me to set up the whole game here on my table and to show you everything in detail. So without further ado, let's get started.
Alright, here we are in Tabletop Simulator. What you can see here is the setup for a basic game that we suggest you play if it is your first time in ASCENDIA or if you just want to have a bit more of a relaxed experience. This setup here is laid out for two players, the red player and the yellow player, as well as an additional third player who will be an automated bot controlled by our very basic AI. So you can get a first idea what it's like to play with a lower player count and you want to fill up the additional spots with automated players, or if you play a pure solo game and you have one or two or three automated bots added to the mix. Everything you see here is the current state of the game, so we do not expect any very substantial changes to the components and to the overall design of the game, but a lot of small details and adjustment might happen in the months ahead. Okay, before we start our playthrough, let's have a very broad look at the main areas of the table here and some most important components, and then we will start the actual gameplay. I will not do a full rules overview or a proper teach. I will do this on the fly during gameplay. Okay, let's have a look. At the very center of the table we see our main play area. These are 19 hex tiles. This is where you will move your standee around. This is the Valley of ASCENDIA that you will explore and where you will have all your adventures and little stories. Right at the center of the valley you can see the hex tile of the village. This is more or less your central hub where you will be able to buy new items, and also you have to be present in the village. You have to be with your standee standing on the village tile if you want to perform the action that triggers the victory condition to end the game. On this tile you can see a handful of tokens. These signify that each player has a starting item. We play to a target number of 10 to win the game. I will explain this in a second. And also each player starts with 2 story points. You can change this up and put various different tokens here to define a game state that suits your preferred play style the best. And also this is a very easy way to adjust the difficulty. Down here we have 2 stacks of cards, the event cards and the snowfall cards. At the beginning of each round the starting player reveals the top card from the snowfall deck, and this card points to a hex tile that then is turned over on its winter side, and in this way over the course of the game gradually the valley freezes over, and when this deck is completely worked through, all 18 hex tiles, so all tiles except the village, are frozen, and this is the final end of the game. So if you have not managed to trigger the winning condition before that, the game is over and lost for all players. Also we have the event card deck here, so whenever a player is moving from one hex tile to another, he has to reveal an event card. Over here at the top corner we have 5 card stacks of materials. So this is your basic currency in the game. You can forage materials out in the wilderness. You can see in the forest you can gather wood. In the clay fields you can gather clay. And then these cards have to be placed in your baggage. These are basically your hand cards, and at the beginning of the game you have a hand card limit of 4. And over here on the opposite corner we have 10 stacks of item cards. Item cards can be equipped on your character in these blue slots, and they allow you to level up your 3 main abilities with which you control most of the actions and mechanics in the game. So as you can see here, each item card has an icon in the top left corner that signifies which body slot it has to be equipped in, and underneath the effect that it actually has for you as a player. And in the top right corner you can see its values. So items have a trading value if you want to buy them, and also you can sell them for the same value. And underneath you see some icons. These are used for crafting, because you can craft at any time during the game an item if you have the specific materials that are stated here. Also, each item has a backside, so you can upgrade an item that you already own, or you can find upgraded items as treasure in the world, and these usually are more powerful versions of the base item from the front side. And finally, let's have a quick look at the player board. These are the same for each player. Like I already said, we have the body slots at the top where you can equip your items. For example, single-handed items can come either here or here. We also have two-handed items that have to be placed in the middle, blocking the 2 one-handed slots. And similarly, an item that has a body icon goes here, and an item with a head icon goes here. Further, we have a slot here at the side for the backpack. If you manage to craft or buy a backpack, your hand limit is extended to by 2 to 6, or if you have the upgraded backpack, it's even extended to 8. And on the other side of the player board there is a dedicated area where you can place cards for animal companions. These give you as a player a permanent and very powerful and unique ability that you can use from then on. In the central area of the player board we have our 3 markers for the 3 main attributes. Like I said, these are used to trigger the most important actions in the game, and by equipping items you can upgrade them and unlock more dice or unlock modifiers to your dice roll. And ideally you will be able to perform the actions a bit more successful. At the bottom of the player board we have the tray for the story points. Like I said, in the base game each player starts with 2 story points. Story points usually are used to re-roll dice, so you can spend them until they are refreshed to re-roll 1 die. And also you can spend them for a free movement from one tile to the next. Each player has in his turn 2 actions. Usually you can do the same action twice or can do 2 different things. Movement would be 1 action, so if you want to move further you can spend story points to get additional movement. Here next to your attributes you have the tray where you collect your renown. Renown is a very important currency in the game. You are collecting renown for a lot of different activities you do in the game, mostly for ridding the Valley of ASCENDIA from obstacles, from enemies, from conflict. And if you manage to do so, as you can see here on the reference chart, you get different amounts of renown. For example, if you remove a bandit from the game board, you get 2 renown. Renown is used to win the game. At any point during gameplay, if you have at least 1 renown, you can move into the village and as an action try to win the game. So you want to be elected as new leader of the Valley of Ascendia. What you have to do to be elected as leader is you have to set as many renown points as you want, at least 1, but you can offer as many as you want. It's a charm action to be elected as leader, so you might add any modificators that you have unlocked to this value, and then finally you roll a die. And then you add everything together, all your renown points, the die roll result, plus any modificators, and if you manage to meet or exceed the target number, in this scenario it is 10, you have won the game. And you can do this at any moment during the game, so you might not want to wait too long to do this, so that nobody beats you to it. But if you do it too early, like in this case, most likely you will fail. And if you fail, all the renown you have offered is lost for good. And finally, let's have a quick look at our dice. There are 2 types of dice in the game, 1 red die and 5 white action dice. You as an active player always control the action dice, the white action dice, and the red die is used usually for automated players or to resolve enemies during combat. So each die, the red die and also the white action die, has a guardian symbol. Whenever you roll a guardian symbol with any die, the action that you are currently performing is failed. Additionally, you have to bring in a guardian to the hex that you are currently standing on and where you failed the action. If all guardians are present on the board in a 2-player game, this is a maximum number of 4, and you roll another guardian symbol, the game is also lost for all players. So you have to take care that there are not too many of them present on the board. You should push them back early. Further, each die has numbers on them. They are just used for calculating results. And also the white die has the number 5 as an exploding die. So if you roll a 5, this counts as an ordinary 5, but you can also choose to roll another die. And depending on the action you're doing, you either add those numbers together or you treat them separately. Okay, one little remark that I forgot while looking at the player board. Like I said, this is not the final version of all components. In the end, of course, this is a ring, so you will be able to see through and have a look at the current value of the attribute that you have unlocked. Okay, so we are ready to begin our game of ASCENDIA. Let me put him back. And to start things off, let me read you from the first page of the rulebook the introduction to the game. A shadow has fallen on the land. The benevolent lord of Ascendia died without an heir, and peasants, citizens and nobles have started to fight over power and influence. The longer this state of affairs lasted, the more ill will and selfishness spread in the hearts of the people, and the land began to decay. In this time of threat and fear, the inhabitants of Ascendia resorted to a desperate measure. On the first day of summer, they sent messengers to all of these outer settlements, and even, it is told, beyond the borders of the valley, to announce that the throne of Ascendia would go by vote to whosoever would perform the most glorious deeds in the interest of the land, regardless of gender or origin. As a result, you and other like-minded fortune seekers from all corners of the land travel to the valley to win the hearts of its citizens before the land is gripped by freezing winter. But beware, all this aggression and intrusion has awakened the guardians of Tel Sodok, forgotten protectors from ancient legends that are determined to purge the land. Okay, like I said, your goal in this game is to accumulate as much renown as possible, faster than anyone else, and if you're feeling strong enough, to enter the village tile and try to be elected as new ruling Lord of Ascendia. Okay. To kick things off, each player, the red player and the yellow player, receives a starting item in this particular setup. To receive a starting item, you will be using the loot mechanic that's used regularly during the game. And as you can see here, we have these 10 stacks of item cards, and we have these 4 numbers under each column. So the 1 points to the sword and the bow, the 2 points to the hatchet and the pickaxe, and so on. As a starting item, you can only get items from the top row. So the 1 points to the short sword exclusively, the 2 points to the hatchet, and so on. What you can do now is you can grab the number 5 and assign it to any of the 4 columns, or even to the 5th one. So let's assume the red player is most interested in a sword. So he puts the number 5 on top of the 1 to give you double chance of actually getting the sword. Then you grab an action die and you roll it. A 4. So the red player receives a helmet. As you can see, the helmet has the head icon, so it has to be equipped in the head slot. It doesn't give you a particular boost to any attribute, but it allows you to reroll the enemy die once per combat. Now we do the same for the yellow player. Let's assume the yellow player is most interested in the hatchet. Again, we grab the white die, we roll, and a guardian symbol. This is the only moment in the game when we can completely ignore the guardian symbol. So we roll again. A 4. So we have a perfectly symmetrical start of the game. Okay. As you can already tell, this is a completely authentic playthrough of Ascendia. I have not rigged or prepared anything. This is just the game as it is, with all the chaos and surprises that are an integral part of the game. So let's shuffle our decks. And we are ready to go. All automated players always start on the central village tile, and all normal players can place their standee on any starting tile of the 12 outer hex tiles. Multiple characters can be placed on the same starting tile. So let's put the red player here. And the yellow player here. And we are ready to go. At the beginning of each round, the starting player reveals the top card from the Snowfall deck. It is always important to be aware that the arrows on the Snowfall deck point in the same direction as the arrow on the village tile, so they are perfectly aligned. And now you can see that the Snowfall card points to a specific hex tile. In this case, it is this tile over here. So we remove the exploration tokens and flip the tile on its winter side. And here you can see on all frozen winter tiles, as an action, you can refresh all your story points that are on cooldown that you have spent up to this moment. So in the later stage of the game, these tiles become quite interesting. Okay, let's start with the first turn of the red player. Like I said, each player during his turn has 2 regular actions. You can do the same thing twice or do 2 different things. So let's assume the red player wants to forage for clay. He's on this clay field and this icon shows that we can forage clay here. So he has to use his forage ability. At this moment the red player only has a white die for foraging, so he just rolls 1 white die. He rolls a number 1. To forage for clay he has to meet or exceed the trading value of clay, so in this case a 2. 1 is too low, so this action is a failure. The red player does not receive anything. As a second action, the red player wants to uncover one of these exploration tokens. This is again an action to uncover 1 token. And it is a ruin. This is quite powerful and interesting, because in a ruin you can find items. This is a similar mechanic as the starting item, but this time you can receive items from the whole column. So again, the red player has to assign the number 5 and he's most interested in swords and bows. Then he grabs the white die, rolls it, and success, a 5. Now he can choose if he wants to have a short sword that can be equipped in one of the hands, or a bow which has to be equipped as a 2-handed item. And we decide to grab a bow. Here you can see the bow affects the fight attribute, and these 2 arrows say that you have to move your marker 2 slots to the right. Now the exploration token is flipped again and returned to the storage. Okay, that's the turn of the red player. Switching over to the yellow player. The yellow player also wants to forage, in this case for wood, since she's standing in the forest. Again, she has to throw a white die. 3. 3 is equal or higher as 1, so she receives 1 wood. When performing a forage action, each die is counted individually. So if you had multiple dice unlocked and you would roll them, you get for each successful die 1 card. So in this example she would receive 2 wood, since both die results are higher than 1. Okay, and since this was such a success, she decides as her second action to do it just again. 2. 2 is again equal or higher than 1, and she gets another wood. Now we move over to our third player, the automated player. To control automated players in ASCENDIA, you only have to throw 1 time the red die once per automated player and refer to this hex tile over here. So we roll the die, a 4. The 4 is this slice of the compass, so the green player moves in the direction of the compass, and also the green player receives 1 renown. This is one of 2 ways how the automated player can collect renown, and if he has enough renown and happens to roll a guardian symbol or a 5, he will try to successfully perform the action for the winning condition and can beat you to the victory. Alright, that was the first round. Let's continue. Again, the starting player reveals the next card, and this is already a Thor card. Draw and reveal the bottom card from the Snowfall discard pile. Reset the indicated terrain tile and place the card at the bottom of the Snowfall deck. So there are 4 Thor cards in this deck, and whenever such a card is drawn, a previously frozen tile thaws and is turned back to its summer side. We only have 1 card on our discard pile, so this one is affected. We flip the hex tile back, 2 random exploration tokens are reassigned, this card is discarded for good, and this card is placed at the bottom of the Snowfall deck. Okay, now our red player. What could he do? Let's move him over to the mountains. Whenever we move as an action, we also have to reveal an event. A weak and wounded stranger emerges from the wilderness in front of you. Roll a white action die. So the red player stumbles across a wounded traveler, and now we roll the white die to see which one of the 3 possible events we are encountering. A guardian. In this case, we do not have to spawn a guardian to the game board. This is just used to determine which of the 3 events is triggered. You have walked into a trap. Place a bandit on your current terrain tile and resolve a combat with him. This is one of many ways how bandits can enter the game. So we grab a bandit standee and place it on our tile, and the bandit immediately attacks. Combat in ASCENDIA always is very straightforward. The active player always starts and rolls a white action die and adds all modifiers that he unlocked. Also, when another player is present on the same hex tile, the non-active player can decide if he wants to participate in the combat and assist or not. If other players are assisting you in a fight, you also get another +2 to your combat value per assisting player. This is not the case at the moment, but since we are playing with an automated player, the red player has the possibility to use this support token. It's flipped on cooldown, and this summons the automated player on the same hex tile. And now the red player benefits from this support bonus of +2. So we roll a white action die. 3. +3 is 6. +2 is 8. So the red player has a combat value of 8. Now another player rolls the red die for the enemy and a guardian symbol. So in this case the combat is 1 for the red player, no matter how low the result would have been. Any modifiers of the bandit are ignored. The bandit usually has a combat modifier of +2 that would have been added to the red die result, but since a guardian has been rolled, this does not apply. So the bandit is instantly removed. He failed his combat, and the red player receives 2 renown. But all assisting players also receive the full reward of this combat encounter. And finally, we have to trigger a guardian, since a guardian has been rolled on any die. Okay. Now on this hex tile, since there is an enemy standee present, we as the active player cannot perform any actions. We cannot forage for wood or flip over exploration tokens. The only thing we can do is interact with the guardian. To remove a guardian from the game, you have to either beat it in combat. The guardian also has a combat modifier of +2, or you can drop 2 material cards that are different. So any 2 cards of different material types. In any case, you receive a renown for removing the guardian, but if you manage to peacefully remove it by dropping material cards, you also unlock an additional story point, which is quite interesting. At the moment this is not possible, so the red player decides as his second action to attack the guardian. Again, the green player will assist. Automated players always assist when they are on the same tile. So we roll our die. A 2 plus 3 is 5, 6, 7. And now we roll the enemy die. 3. 3 plus 2 is 5, so we won the combat. The guardian is removed and we both receive a renown. That's the end of the red player's turn. Now the yellow player. The yellow player decides to reveal an exploration token. A rat. Rats can only be removed from the game board if you own a poison item and you drop it on the hex tile where the rat is present. Then you receive 2 renown. You cannot fight or otherwise remove the rats. Also now the yellow player cannot do anything else on this tile. So she moves over here, has an event encounter, and it is the traveling merchant. So this allows the active player to perform a free trade action. Usually you can only perform trade actions in the village to sell items and material cards and buy items. You cannot buy material, you only can forage material in the world. And with this card you can do it as a free action right where you are. So the yellow player decides to sell her helmet, offer it. It has a trade value of 5, as you can see in the top right corner. And when you are trading, you always perform a charm action. So in this case again, you roll 1 white die. Oh, 5. You add, and theoretically now she could even let it explode, which she does. So she rolls another die and adds them together, 9. And she also offered her helmet with a 5, so she has a trade value of 14. You add it all together. So now she can buy something for 14. First thing she's gonna do is she's gonna buy a poison for 5. So she still has 9 to spend. And she chooses to buy a pickaxe. So at first the poison goes here. Let's grab the pickaxe, and also we remove the helmet. Alright. That's the end of the yellow player's turn. Now to our green player. Again, we roll the red die. a 4. Now the green player cannot go further down, so he just stays where he is, but he receives another renown. Next round. Starting player reveals the top snowfall card. And it's another Thor card. But in this case there is no discard pile, since it's our third round and there are none sitting here. So the card is just discarded. Okay, now our red player. The red player now wants to forage for ore, and again he rolls one white action die and a 4. A 4 is higher than a 3, so he receives an ore. If this would not have been an automated player but a regular player, the other player would have received an ore as well. So if you're standing on the same tile while another player is performing a forage action successfully, you get one card of the material that the active player is gathering, no matter how many cards the active player is actually getting. But automated players do not collect any cards, so it's not happening here. Okay, and as a second action, now the red player wants to craft. As you can see here on the item cards, there is a yellow ribbon, and the material that's indicated on the yellow ribbon, this is what you have to spend if you own an item to upgrade it as an action to its upgraded side. So I can now choose if I want to have an iron helmet, which allows me to reroll twice during one combat the enemy die, or if I want to have a crossbow which has the same combat abilities as the bow, but if I kill a creature, an animal, as an event encounter, I get more hide resources. So more resources or more rerolls. In this case, the red player decides that he wants double the rerolls. So we spend the iron ore to craft and turn our ordinary leather helmet into an iron helmet. Now, over to our yellow player. The yellow player moves to the spot of the red, reveals another event, and it is again the traveling merchant. This time the yellow player does not want to perform any trading, so she ignores the traveling merchant. And as her second action, now she drops the poison on the same tile with the red. The red is removed, and the yellow player receives 1, 2 renown for removing the red. Okay, next our automated green player. We roll again the die, a 6. So the player moves over here and he receives 2 more renown. This is becoming increasingly dangerous since the automated player now has quite a lot of renown. So the next time he will trigger the chance for the winning condition, it's quite likely that he will succeed. Let's see how this turns out. Now the red player again is foraging. Oh, no, wait. At first we reveal again a snowfall card. And this time it points to this tile. Okay. Now, the red player. In his turn, the red player again wants to forage for ore, so he rolls the white die, but it's a failure. 2, that's not enough, so he spends a story point and rolls again. Even worse. Okay. Let's leave it at that. And the red player reveals as his second action another exploration token. And a red. Again. Okay. Now the red player has spent all his actions, and usually he would end his turn on the same tile with the red. If you do that, you have to spend 1 renown. In Ascendia there is no health points, but your renown basically is your currency for health. So whenever you lose a combat or you're damaged or hurt in any way, you lose 1 renown. So if you end your turn on the same tile as a red, you have to remove 1 renown. This is quite painful, so the red player decides to spend his last story point and move over here. Again, he has to reveal an event, and it's a bandit. So another bandit enters the game board and immediately attacks. Bandits, when they spawn, they always attack. Okay. The red player rolls the white die, and it's a guardian. So in this case, since all story points are spent, the red player can do nothing. He loses the fight. A guardian is spawned. Also he loses a renown. And on each hex tile there can be only 1 enemy standee, so if another one is spawning, the previous one has to be pushed to one of the adjacent tiles. And this can lead to some nice chain reactions. For example, the active player can push the bandit over here, which again pushes the red potentially over here, annoying the yellow player a little bit. Okay, that's the end of the red player's turn. Now, the yellow player cannot do anything on this hex tile since the red is present. So she decides to move over here. And another red. And again, the yellow player does not want to stay on this tile. Also, she cannot do anything currently other than removing the red, but she doesn't have a poison. So she moves with her second action to the village. And when you enter the village, you do not have to draw an event card. Now it's again the green player's turn, rolling a die. And he moves upwards. Now, this triggers potentially the victory condition. This means the automated player is moved to the village, the support token is refreshed, and now the green player has to try to win the game. That means he offers all renown that he has. There is no decision making here. It's 7 renown. Then he rolls a white action die, just as any normal player would do. And it's a 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The green player has to meet or exceed the number 10 to win the game. But he gets a penalty for every other player who is with him present on the village, so it's only a 9, and also for every 2 enemies who are still on the game board, so another 1, 2, penalty points. So this is in the end a 7, which is not enough to win the game. So all renown are discarded and the game continues. This means it's quite important that you ideally enter the village alone if you want to win the game, and also that before you do that you clean up at least a little bit the game board. Okay, next round. Now this tile here is freezing. If enemies are present on a hex tile that is freezing, they are removed. Okay. The red player now has to decide what he wants to do. Stay on this tile and potentially fight the guardian, or move away. So the red player decides to summon the green player to his side and attacks the guardian. 2. 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 2 is 7. So the red player has a combat value of 7. Now we roll for the guardian. 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. So the 2 won easily the fight against the guardian. The guardian is removed. And again, both participants of the combat receive 1 renown. As a second action, the red player now wants to refresh his story points. Over to our yellow player. The yellow player in the village tries to buy a poison. So she decides to offer these 2 wood with a combined trade value of 2. Again, she has to roll 1 white die to perform the charm action for the trading. And a guardian. This would mean that the action has failed, the materials would return to the hand, and a guardian would be spawned on one of the outer tiles. And as a matter of fact, the yellow player decides to reroll. And reroll again. Okay. A 3. This is definitely not enough to buy anything. There are no items you can buy for 3, especially not a poison, so this was quite horrible. The item material cards get returned, and the yellow player has another action. So she just tries again, offering 2 wood and rolling a white action die. And again, it doesn't work. It's just not enough. It's quite a risky trade with only 2 wood to try to achieve anything, but it might have worked. Okay, over to our green player. We roll the red die, a 2, and with a 2 the green player moves over to the village and receives 1 renown. Next round. Again, a thaw. So we drop this card here and we grab the bottom card of this stack, and this hex tile over here is thawing. Okay, this should not have happened, but we will manage. And he goes back. And then this card goes to the bottom of the snowfall deck, and we're done. Now the red player decides to move over here. He reveals an event card, and it's a Swiftfoot. The Swiftfoot is a potential animal companion, as you can see on the icon in the top left corner, the paw on the green background. So if you manage to beat it in combat, you can tame it and keep it as an animal companion here on your side, and permanently benefit from its ability. Once during your turn, you can move across 2 tiles in 1 movement action, so you will be a little bit faster. The Swiftfoot is a very easy to beat enemy, so the red player takes his chances. Again, rolling a die, a 4 plus 3 is 7. This is very good. The Swiftfoot also rolls his die. A 3 minus 1 is a 2, so success. Now as his second action, the red player attacks the bandit. Again, rolling a die. And again. Yes, that's nice. And he decides to keep it as it is and do not explode the die. So an 8, and the bandit rolls a 5, plus 2 is a 7, so the red player wins the fight, the bandit is removed, and the red player gets 2 renown. 1, 2. Now over to our yellow player. The yellow player decides to move here to the clay field, has another event, and it's the mountain troll. This is a powerful enemy encounter. You have to fight it. It's not a potential companion, it's just a wild beast, so immediately a combat is initiated. Again, the yellow player rolls a die, and it's a guardian. So she doesn't have any story points, there's nothing she can do, so she loses the fight, losing 1 renown. She doesn't get any rewards, and instead a guardian is summoned on her hex tile. Now she moves over to the mountains, has another encounter, and she finds an ambushed caravan with damaged carriages. To resolve this encounter, we have to roll again a white action die. A 4. The carriages are surrounded by their owners, who ask you for help. You may drop 2 materials of the same type to receive 2 renown. And as it just so happens, our yellow player has 2 materials of the same type. So this is very lucky. She definitely will do that. And receive 2 renown. Over to our green player. Again, we roll the red die, a 5. And the green player moves here, but the 5 also is a potential trigger for the victory condition, so he's teleported back to the village and offers all of his renown and rolls a white action die. And it's a complete failure, so he loses his renown and is not elected. Next round. Now this tile is freezing, removing the red. And the red player decides to move over here. And he comes across a feather beak. Again, this is a potential animal companion that you can tame. Once per turn during an explore action, you can reveal all exploration tokens on a tile and choose to resolve or ignore any of them. All unresolved tokens are turned back on their hidden side. This is quite interesting. So the red player tries to tame the feather beak, which is again a normal combat. Ooh, close one. So 3 plus 3 is 6, and now we roll for the feather beak. And the feather beak fumbles completely. You can only have one animal companion at a time, so the red player has to remove his previous animal companion, the Swiftfoot, and you can either just let it go or you can slaughter it and receive the hide material, which is exactly what the red player will do. But since during the combat a guardian symbol was rolled, another guardian is summoned to this hex tile. Alright. Now over to the yellow player. The yellow player... Oh! The yellow player has a pickaxe, so we can move the forage marker 2 spots to the right. We forgot that. And now the yellow player tries to perform a forage action. She may roll up to 3 dice, but since she doesn't have any rerolls, she chooses just to roll 2 of them. She has to meet or exceed the number 3. The trading value for ore. 1 die didn't make it, but the other one did, so she receives 1 ore. And with her second action, she reveals an exploration token. This is an abandoned hut, which allows you to search the material stacks for loot. Again, you can assign the number 5 to any of the 5 spots. And roll a die. Oh. This is quite unfortunate. Now the yellow player does not get any resources, she doesn't have a story point to reroll, and instead she summons another guardian to her hex tile. Now, the green player, 6, moving over here, and he receives 2 renown. Next round, the red player reveals a snowfall card, and the card is pointing to this hex tile. Now the red player is moving over here, and also he comes across an ambushed caravan. Again, we have to roll the white die. 2. The carriages are surrounded by their owners who ask you for help, just with the same event as with the yellow player, but the red player only has 1 material card, so he cannot help. As a second action, he refreshes his story points. The yellow player now is in a bit of a complicated situation, since she is almost surrounded by guardians. There's not much she can do, and even her closest free hex tiles are just grasslands where she cannot do much. Nevertheless, she moves over here and reveals an encounter. Okay. The Razorback. Another potential animal companion, and if you manage to tame it, you have the permanent ability. Once per turn during a forage action, you can flip one of your white dice on its opposite side after the throw. So this makes foraging very, very powerful, and she definitely wants to try to tame the Razorback. So she rolls a white die. 4. Not bad. And she rolls a red die for the Razorback. 2. The Razorback has a modifier of 0, so it's 2 compared to 4, and she successfully beats the Razorback in combat, and now it is her animal companion. Very nice. With her second action, the yellow player moves over here and has another event. This time it is a Swiftfoot, and the yellow player decides that she is quite happy with her current animal companion, and also she doesn't want to lose any renown if she would lose the combat, even if she misses out on the hide material, so she just ignores this encounter. Okay. Next up, our green automated player, again rolling the red die, and a 6, so he moves over here and gets 2 more renown. Next round, starting player reveals a snowfall card, and this time it's pointing to this tile. And now the red player decides to move over here, and he travels undisturbed. Nothing is happening. Now as a second action, he tries to forage for ore, so he rolls 1 die and a 5, which is perfectly fine, and he just accepts this result, doesn't re-roll. So let's do a little bit of housekeeping here. Okay, and that's the turn of the red player. Over to our yellow player. The yellow player now will forage for wood, and she will again throw 2 dice, and both are a success, so she receives 2 wood. Alright. With her second action, she's moving over here and reveals an event. Another Swiftfoot. Okay, again she will ignore this encounter. Now to our green player. So he moves over here and receives 1 renown. Next round, the red player reveals the top snowfall card, and this time it's this hex freezing over. Now the red player moves over here, reveals an event, and it is the Seer. You meet a mysterious elder woman. She offers you a glimpse into your future. If you drop any item or material card, you may roll a white action die and place it on your character sheet. Once per game you can substitute any rolled die with this saved die. So the red player decides to actually do that. He offers his iron helmet, and now he may roll a white die and he can save that. And at any point during the game when action dice are used, he can substitute a die roll with this guaranteed 4. Alright, and as his second action, the red player drops his ore and hide material card to remove the Guardian from the game board. He unlocks a new story point and receives 1 renown. Now over to our yellow player. The yellow player also offers 1 wood and 1 ore to remove the Guardian. Let's see if we can pull this off. Okay, great. The yellow player receives another renown and also unlocks a new story point. And as a second action, the yellow player forages for clay, rolls 2 dice, and in this case he can use the Razorback ability. Once per turn during a forage action you can flip 1 of your white dice on its opposite side after the throw. So the opposite side of a 1 is a 4, and 2 4 mean in this case 2 clay for the white, the yellow player. Okay, perfect. Now our green player 5. So the green player moves over here, and again he potentially can now trigger the victory condition. So he moves into the village, and now we have a different situation because there is no one else together with him in the village, so no penalty for that, and there's just 1 enemy present on the board, so also no penalty for enemies. Every 2 enemies count as 1 penalty. So again he offers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and rolls 1 die. A 1. Okay, so that's a 6. 6 is not 10. And the game continues. We flip or refresh the support token. Okay, next round. The red player reveals the next snowfall deck. It is this hex tile. flip it. And now the red player has had a great glimpse into the future, and he decides to at first summon the green player to his side to clear the village, and then to move into the village himself. No event. And then as his second action, he offers all his 6 renown and rolls a white action die. And it's a 5. Ooh. Okay, we've seen that it was a 5. So 5 plus 6 is 11, which is more than enough to win the game. And even if it would have been a very bad roll or something, just a bad roll, we could have substituted this die result. Let's say it would have been a 1, we could have substituted the die result with our 4, and even then we would have had a guaranteed success, so the red player had a guaranteed win at this stage in the game. Alright, so we have our new ruling Lord of Ascendia, the red player, with great success.
Welcome back. This has been fun. I gotta admit, I still love playing my own game. Anyways, I hope you also enjoyed this rather lengthy video and that you got a bit of a feeling what it's actually like to play a game of Ascendia. Like I said, this was the base game setup which we suggest you play if you learn the game or if you want a more relaxed experience. There are many ways how you can fine-tune this to your preferred play style, to add some more modules, to add a bit of complexity, and I will explain all these little things you can do in a dedicated video soon. But until then, take care, happy playing, see you soon. Goodbye.